A dam is more than just a structure of concrete and steel. It is a profound symbol of humanity's relationship with the forces of nature and with life itself. At its core, a dam represents the human impulse to control, to contain, and to reshape the world to fit our desires and fears. It stands as a barrier dividing what is free and untamed from what is organized and predictable. When we look at a dam, we see an act of defiance against the natural flow of rivers. It is a manifestation of our belief that we can halt the currents, stop the floods, and tame the wild energy that courses through the landscape. But this act of control is never without consequence. Behind the dam, the river pools into a reservoir, its natural flow interrupted, its life-giving currents stilled. What was once dynamic and flowing becomes stagnant, artificial, and constrained. This metaphor extends beyond the physical realm, reflecting the ways we approach life itself. The dam symbolizes the walls we build within ourselves, walls designed to hold back emotions, suppress desires, or block out pain. It represents the structures we impose on our lives to maintain order and avoid discomfort, the ways we try to manage relationships, careers, and ambitions to fit into preconceived molds. Yet, the dam is also a paradox. While it offers the illusion of control, it cannot truly dominate the forces it seeks to contain. The river remains alive behind the barrier, pushing against its constraints, seeking paths to flow freely once more. It is patient but persistent, reminding us that life cannot be fully controlled or permanently halted. The energy that drives the river is the same energy that drives us, a force that demands movement, expression, and freedom. The illusion of control expanded. The dam, for all its grandeur, embodies an illusion, the belief that we can master forces greater than ourselves. It stands as a testament to our conviction that with enough effort, ingenuity, or force, we can dictate the flow of nature, bending it to our will. Yet this perceived control is fleeting and incomplete, for the river does not truly submit, it simply waits. In our lives, the illusion of control manifests in countless ways. We create plans, routines, and systems, believing they will safeguard us from uncertainty. We attempt to mold our surroundings, relationships, and even our own emotions into predictable patterns, convinced that mastery over these elements will bring us security and peace. But like the river pressing against the dam, life resists being boxed in. This illusion feeds on our desire for certainty in an unpredictable world. We convince ourselves that by controlling external circumstances, we can also control the outcomes, avoiding pain, failure, or loss. Yet the very act of grasping tightly often creates the cracks through which chaos seeps. Just as the river carves new paths when obstructed, life finds ways to remind us of its inherent unpredictability. The illusion is further perpetuated by the temporary successes of control. A dam can hold back water for decades, and a well-ordered life can provide the semblance of stability for years. These moments of apparent mastery reinforce the belief that we are in charge, that we are the architects of our fate. But beneath the surface, the forces we seek to suppress remain active, waiting for the opportunity to surge forward. Control, as alluring as it seems, is ultimately a fragile construct. It is built on the premise that we can separate ourselves from the flow of life, standing apart as overseers rather than participants. However, life is not a static system to be managed. It is a dynamic, evolving process, constantly shifting and reshaping itself in ways that defy our expectations. Flow of life expanded. The flow of life is much like the course of a river, dynamic, ever-changing and ceaseless. It moves forward, carving its path through the terrain of existence, shaping and reshaping the world around it. In its natural state, life flows freely, unbound by rigid structures or predetermined routes. It is spontaneous and adaptable, responding effortlessly to obstacles, finding new channels, and embracing the unknown with an intrinsic grace. To understand the flow of life is to see it as an unbroken continuum, a dance of interconnected events and experiences. It is not linear or confined, but expansive and fluid, touching all aspects of existence. Like a river that nourishes the land it passes through, life's flow carries with it the energy of growth, transformation, and renewal. When we align with this flow, we experience a sense of harmony and ease, as though we are being carried by a current larger than ourselves. In such moments, life feels effortless, as if every step unfolds naturally, without resistance or force. Yet when we try to control or interrupt this flow, when we impose barriers or cling to the past, we create turbulence and stagnation. The flow of life also embraces cycles, times of abundance and times of scarcity, periods of calm and moments of intensity. It teaches us that just as a river widens and narrows, speeds up and slows down, life too is not meant to be static. Its rhythms remind us to adapt, to let go when necessary, and to trust the unfolding process even when the destination is unclear. At its core, the flow of life is a testament to impermanence. It reveals that nothing stays the same, and that this constant motion is not something to fear but to embrace. The river does not lament the changes in its course, it simply flows onward, finding its way, always in motion, always becoming. Flow of life expanded. Life, at its essence, is a continuous flow, dynamic, ever-changing, and uncontainable. Like a river winding through valleys, carving canyons and shaping landscapes, life moves forward, whether we embrace its currents or resist them. This flow is not linear, it twists and turns, often taking unexpected paths, carrying us through calm waters and turbulent rapids alike. The flow of life is both a force and a rhythm, an unending process of creation and transformation. It cannot be controlled or predicted, for it exists beyond the confines of human design. It moves through us and around us, a reminder that we are not separate from the greater whole, but part of its ceaseless movement. This flow encompasses everything: birth and death, joy and sorrow, order and chaos interwoven in a seamless dance that defies boundaries. When we attune ourselves to this flow, we experience a sense of connection and vitality. The flow of life teaches us adaptability, encouraging us to bend like the river's currents rather than break against them. It invites us to let go of rigid expectations and trust the journey, recognizing that even in moments of uncertainty or upheaval, the river is always moving, always leading somewhere. Yet this flow is not always gentle. It can overwhelm, sweep us off our feet, and carry us to places we never intended to go. These moments test our ability to surrender, to navigate the currents without clinging to the banks. The river does not pause or wait for us to catch our breath, it simply flows, reminding us that life's essence lies in its movement, not its stillness. Resistance vs. Acceptance expanded. Resistance is the act of building dams within ourselves, efforts to hold back the natural flow of life, to control what feels unpredictable, or to protect ourselves from discomfort and change. It stems from fear, a deep-seated need to preserve a sense of safety and stability in a world that is inherently fluid. Resistance often feels like strength, a stance of defiance against forces we perceive as threatening, yet it is ultimately an act of denial. To resist is to fight against the inevitable, to refuse the flow of life in favor of an illusion of control. It manifests in clinging to the past, avoiding the unknown, or holding rigidly to expectations that no longer serve us. Resistance creates tension. both within and without, as the currents of life press against the walls we build. This tension does not dissipate, it accumulates, creating cracks through which the suppressed energies of life eventually burst forth. Acceptance, on the other hand, is the act of letting go, of stepping into the flow rather than standing against it. It is not passive surrender, but an active choice to align with the rhythms of life, trusting its wisdom even when its direction feels uncertain. Acceptance acknowledges that life is not something to be conquered, but something to be experienced with all its beauty and unpredictability. Where resistance creates barriers, acceptance dissolves them. It allows emotions to surface, relationships to evolve, and circumstances. Human ego expanded. The dam is a reflection of the human ego, an embodiment of our relentless desire to assert dominance over the world around us. The ego, much like a dam, is a construct, a barrier we erect to separate ourselves from the vast, untamed forces of life. It is the part of us that seeks to define, control, and manipulate, believing that our identity and sense of self-worth are tied to what we can master and achieve. The human ego thrives on the illusion of separateness. It convinces us that we are distinct from the natural world, that we stand apart from the rivers, forests, and skies, capable of bending them to our will. The dam becomes a monument to this mindset, a physical manifestation of the belief that we can control nature's currents, redirect its power, and harness it for our purposes. Yet the ego's need for control often blinds us to the interconnectedness of all things, leading to unintended harm and imbalance. Ego-driven pursuits often emphasize conquest over harmony, efficiency over balance, and short-term gain over long-term sustainability. In building dams, we may flood fertile valleys, displace communities, and disrupt ecosystems, all in the name of progress. Similarly, in our personal lives, the ego's drive for success or validation may lead us to suppress our true selves, exploit relationships, or prioritize external achievements over inner fulfillment. The dam also represents the ego's fear of vulnerability. To let the river flow freely would be to accept uncertainty, to embrace the unpredictability of life. The ego resists this, seeking instead to create structures that provide the illusion of stability and control. But this resistance often results in rigidity, a reluctance to adapt or evolve in response to life's changing currents. Just as a dam that cannot adjust to shifting conditions may eventually fail, so too does the ego crack under the weight of its own inflexibility. Furthermore, the ego is insatiable, always seeking more power, more control, more recognition. A dam may begin as a small structure, but over time the desire to generate greater energy or manage larger flows often leads to expansions, modifications, and further interventions. This mirrors the human tendency to continually strive for greater accomplishments, often at the expense of balance and well-being. Breaking the dam expanded. Breaking the dam is an act of liberation, a return to the natural flow that was obstructed and contained. It symbolizes the release of pent-up energy, emotions, and potential that have been trapped behind walls of control and resistance. When the dam is broken, the river surges forward, untamed and unapologetic, carving new paths and restoring the vitality that had been suppressed. In our lives, breaking the dam represents the moment we choose to let go of the barriers we've constructed, whether they are fears, outdated beliefs, or self-imposed limitations. It is an acknowledgement that holding back the currents of life has created stagnation, tension, and disconnection. The act of breaking the dam is not without its challenges. It requires courage to face the torrent that follows, the rush of everything we've held back. The process of breaking the dam can be messy and unpredictable. When the barriers fall, The floodwaters often do not follow a neatly defined course. They may overwhelm, sweeping away the familiar and comfortable in their wake. This chaos, however, is not destruction for its own sake, but a necessary clearing, a way for life to reset and recalibrate. In the aftermath, the river finds its natural course once more, replenishing the land and nurturing new growth. Breaking the dam is also a deeply transformative act. It requires us to confront the structures we've clung to question why we built them in the first place, and to face the fears that prompted their construction. It invites us to surrender to life's flow, to trust its wisdom, and to embrace the uncertainty of its direction. In doing so, we not only free the river, but also free ourselves, reclaiming the vitality and authenticity that come from living in alignment with life's rhythms. This act is not about recklessness or destruction, but about release. It is the recognition that what once served as protection has become a prison, that the walls we built to hold back the currents are now holding us back from experiencing the fullness of life. Breaking the dam is an invitation to dissolve resistance, to allow life to move through us freely and fully, without constraint or hesitation. Nature always wins expanded. Nature always wins, not through force or malice, but through its enduring and unyielding truth. It is a reminder that while humanity may strive to conquer, control, and reshape the natural world, the forces of nature remain timeless, patient, and infinitely adaptive. A dam, no matter how imposing or ingeniously constructed, is a temporary structure in the face of the eternal river. The river does not resist the dam, it simply persists. It flows around, under and over it, finding cracks and weaknesses, slowly eroding what was once thought to be impenetrable. Nature's power is not in its aggression, but in its constancy. It does not fight against us, it outlasts us. The same water that shapes the soft sands of a beach can carve through the hardest rock over centuries, demonstrating the quiet inevitability of its triumph. Nature's victory is also seen in its cycles of renewal. After a dam collapses, the river rushes forward, restoring its course and bringing life back to the areas that were once cut off. Vegetation returns, animals reclaim their habitats, and the land begins to heal. This resilience reflects a profound truth. While human actions may disrupt, nature always finds a way to restore balance, even if it takes generations. In our personal and collective lives, nature's triumph is a humbling reminder of our interconnectedness with the world around us. We often operate under the assumption that we are separate from nature, that we can bend it to our will without consequence. Yet every attempt to impose rigid control, whether through physical barriers or societal constructs, eventually falters under the weight of life's inherent dynamism. This inevitability is not a threat but a lesson. Nature's way is one of balance, adaptation, and persistence. It does not demand perfection or rigidity, it thrives on diversity and flexibility. When we align ourselves with these principles, we cease to see nature as an opponent and begin to understand it as a teacher. The river, the forest, the wind all carry messages of endurance, harmony, and the power of flowing with, rather than against, the currents of existence. Energy within the flow expanded. The true power lies not in the dam, but in the river's flow. The energy within the flow is the force that moves life forward, unrelenting and vital. It is the constant current that runs through everything, both visible and unseen. The flow of life contains an inherent energy that does not need to be harnessed or controlled to be powerful. It is already present, flowing effortlessly, shaping the world in its wake. Within the flow there is a pulse, an undercurrent that connects all things. This energy is not something we can hold, capture, or direct. It is not confined by the dam's walls, nor can it be contained by our structures of control. It is dynamic, alive, and it moves through us just as it moves through the river. This energy is the driving force of change, growth, and creation. It is found in the cycles of nature, in the beating of the heart, and in the rise and fall of tides. It's an expression of life itself. The energy within the flow is not chaotic, as we might perceive it to be from the standpoint of control. It is not random or aimless, but rather purposeful. The river's current has direction, even when it appears to wander or change course. This energy is always moving toward something, toward growth, toward transformation, toward renewal. It has an intelligence of its own, one that does not require human intervention to know where it is going. When we stop resisting the flow, we tap into that same intelligence, aligning ourselves with the natural rhythms of life. There is also a quiet power in the energy of the flow. It does not demand attention or recognition. It is not loud or brash, but subtle, insistent, and persistent. It operates in silence, carving canyons over time, shaping the land without effort. This form of power is different from the ego-driven force we often seek to wield. It does not come from pushing or forcing, but from surrendering to the flow itself, allowing the energy to move through us without obstruction. In the flow, we find our true strength, breaking free from constructs expanded. Constructs are the frameworks we build around ourselves, mental, societal, and emotional structures that define who we are, how we behave, and what we believe to be possible. These constructs give us a sense of stability, a way to make sense of the world, and a means of navigating the complexity of life. They are the maps we use to orient ourselves in an otherwise unpredictable terrain. However, the very nature of these constructs can also limit our understanding and restrict our freedom. Breaking free from constructs is the act of recognizing that these frameworks, while useful, are not the truth. They are only representations shaped by culture, upbringing, personal experiences, and societal expectations. As we grow and evolve, these constructs may no longer serve us. What once felt like a solid foundation may begin to feel confining, rigid, and disconnected from the fluid nature of life itself. The moment we realize that these constructs are only temporary structures created by the mind to navigate the chaos of existence, we find the courage to dismantle them. The fear of breaking free often arises because constructs provide a sense of identity and security. The ego holds onto them tightly, believing that without these boundaries we would be lost, undefined, or adrift. But breaking free from these constructs is not an abandonment of self, it is a return to a truer, deeper self, one that is not defined by external roles or expectations. It is about rediscovering the natural flow of life, beyond the limiting definitions that keep us trapped in familiar patterns. When we break free from constructs, we allow ourselves to experience life as it truly is, not through the lens of judgment or expectation, but through the lens of direct experience. The structures we build in our minds and societies are often based on past experiences or inherited beliefs, yet life is an ever-evolving, unfolding process. By releasing these constructs, we allow space for new possibilities to emerge, possibilities that are more aligned with the present moment and our authentic selves. This act of breaking free requires courage because it involves stepping into the unknown. Without the constructs that once defined our path, there may be moments of uncertainty and disorientation. But it is in this uncertainty that true freedom lies, as we are no longer bound by the confines of what we thought was possible. We allow ourselves to be shaped by the currents of life, open to new experiences, new ways of being, and new perspectives. The process of breaking free is not one of destruction, but of expansion and invitation to release the narrow confines of the ego and embrace the vastness of existence. In breaking free, we also release the need for control. Constructs are often built to provide a sense of mastery over our environment and our lives. Yet by trying to control every aspect, we miss the essence of life itself, its mystery, its spontaneity, and its unpredictable beauty. When we break free from these limitations, we open ourselves to the flow of life, trusting that we do not need to define or contain our experiences to make them meaningful. Life itself, in all its fluidity and complexity, is enough. A call to flow expanded. A call to flow is a call to surrender to the natural currents of life, to let go of the need to control, and to trust the unfolding process of existence. It is an invitation to step into the river, to feel its cool embrace, and to allow ourselves to be carried, not by force or calculation, but by the inherent wisdom that the flow carries. The river moves with purpose, not because it plans to, but because it simply cannot do anything else but flow. In the same way, when we allow ourselves to flow with life, we align ourselves with something greater than individual will. Flow is not a passive state, but an active participation in the dance of life. It asks us to release the need for certainty, to relinquish the rigid structures that our minds have created to define and control our path. It calls us to embrace uncertainty, to trust that the current will lead us where we need to go, even when the destination is unclear. Just as a river does not question its course, but moves with the terrain, we are invited to move with the circumstances, the challenges, and the opportunities that life presents. The call to flow asks us to let go of the burden of forcing outcomes. It is a reminder that life is not about achieving fixed goals, but about participating in a process of continuous movement and transformation. When we are caught in the flow, we are no longer weighed down by the pressure of what we think should happen or by the fear of what might happen. Instead, we become part of the larger rhythm, moving in harmony with the forces at work, trusting that the flow will take us exactly where we need to be. To flow is to trust in the natural order of things, to have faith that despite the unpredictability of life, there is a greater intelligence at work. This intelligence is not something we impose from the outside, but something that emerges from within when we stop fighting against the current. It is the intelligence of nature, of time, of growth, and of the seasons all working together in ways we cannot fully comprehend, but can feel deeply when we align ourselves with them. The call to flow challenges the ego, which thrives on control and certainty. It asks us to step away from our need to dictate the pace, the direction, and the outcome of every situation. The ego seeks to create boundaries, to dam the river, to stop the flow. Yet in doing so, it stifles creativity, growth, and the natural unfolding of life. Flow, by contrast, is about surrender not to weakness, but to strength. It is the strength to trust in the unknown, to allow ourselves to be carried, and to find joy in the journey itself, rather than in a fixed destination. Flow also invites us to connect more deeply with the present moment. It teaches us that the moment is all we truly have, and that by letting go of the past and future, we can experience life as it is, in its full richness and depth. The river moves in the present, never clinging to the past nor worrying about the future. And in this it offers a profound lesson on how to live fully engaged in the now, flowing with what is, rather than against it. In life, we often build dams, constructs of control and fear to manage the flow of existence. But the river of life cannot be contained. Nature's energy is constant, relentless, and ultimately, it always wins. Our resistance, rooted in the fear of chaos, only delays the inevitable. True freedom comes when we break free from these constructs and surrender to the flow. When we embrace the natural current of life, we tap into an energy that transcends ego and control, allowing us to evolve, transform, and experience life in its fullest, most authentic form. The call to flow is an invitation to live freely, in harmony with the ever-moving river of existence.